Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our first interaction of this academic year. We have two faculty members joining us from very different programs. One of our faculty members from Bhopal and one from Bangalore. Today, we're going to experience what classroom learning looks like at Azim Premji University in two very distinct fields of study that the university offers at the undergraduate program level. The way the program will work, the way this webinar will work is Sharib will start with his session, then Ovi will go into her activity and session. We'll have time for questions towards the end. Additionally, if you put your questions in the chat, we will try to respond to it in chat or live towards the end of the session. Over to you, Sharib.
Hello everyone. Uh, can I put my presentation back on? Yeah. Uh, Hello. So this is more like I'm assuming this is a classroom situation because the whole purpose of doing this is to give our students that experience that what university classroom looks like. So classrooms are much more interactive, and I wish we were present in a physical space to make it much more interactive. But just to kind of uh, get some sense of what interaction in the classroom means, I would just start with this question that how do we know? And I'm asking this question because the title that I've chosen for myself is From Knowing to Seeing and Beyond. So how do we really know whatever we know? So if any of you want to comment, as answer this as a comment, you're more than welcome to do that. So how do we know if this is a question? What would you and how would you answer? What would be your response? So there can be a number of ways in which we will answer this question that how do we know? But mostly it will, if we kind of take it one step backward every time, we'll reach to a position where we would state that we see, we hear, we smell, we taste, we touch, and that's how we know. So our ideas of knowledge are acquired using sensory organs. This is one of the very basics. So if you say you are reading books, you are actually using your vision. If you are not using your vision, you are using your touch. If you are not using your touch, you are using your ear. So there can be multiple ways in which we are reading, we are interacting with books, or someone else telling us again, you are using one of the sensory organs. The person who is telling you something is using their sensory organs. So ultimately it boils down to knowledge acquired using sensory organs. And just to mention it, there can be hierarchy, what uh, can be greater knowledge, better knowledge, more valid knowledge compared to the other. And it also kind of gives a hierarchical order to sensory organs. I'm not going there, but let's just see an image. And if I ask you that, what do you see? So how would you respond to this? What do you see on the screen? Okay, so whatever you have thought about this, what this object is, this is a mortar of a metal grinder from early Roman period, somewhere around 100 BC to 200 AD. Now, when I tell you this information, I'll give you this information that this is a mortar. You know how mortar and pestle work. And now when you look at this image, you will make some sense that how this must be working. And otherwise, it was very difficult to really imagine that this is a mortar and it is used for grinding something. Now that we have this knowledge, we also can uh, deduce several other kind of information regarding this object. So how is it happening? How are we able to do it? Is the point that I am trying to tell you, that merely seeing or mere use of sensory organs may not be enough. So every time you or all of us, we use our sensory organs, it becomes a meaningful act when there is some kind of prior knowledge available to us. Then we say, okay, for instance, think of some kind of taste. There's some things taste sweet, for instance. So we have to know how sweets taste, isn't it? Or how sweet tastes. So how what is bitter, for instance, in terms of taste, or how mango tastes. So we know different kind of taste. Then only we can express it through language, and also experience it by using sensory organs at some other occasion. So to make that act meaningful, merely the availability and the use of sensory organs are not enough. So take another example. So we all have uh, read this, heard this, seen this. The sun rises in the east and sets in the west. This is an expression that we hardly think uh, to inquire whether it is right or wrong, or sufficient, insufficient. But this is an expression which gives us certain other kinds of information. For instance, when we say the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, we are also saying that the sun is moving, and sun is moving around the earth because we are present on the earth. That's why we are able to see it moving from east to west. Okay. Now, this is an information that was available to us, that continues to be available to us till date. But what has happened somewhere in the 15th century is the fact that it was challenged. It was challenged by, let's say, Copernicus, who is saying that no, the movement of sun around the earth doesn't really solve a lot of mathematical problems that we have about the movement of celestial beings. So we need to think of something else. And today we know that yes, it is not the sun which is going around the earth, rather it is the earth which is going around the sun. But what has happened with this kind of knowledge, or with this kind of articulation? So we'll know that we have prior knowledge, we have several sources of prior knowledge. So, for instance, if we know that the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, this is also coming from science. Someone like Ptolemy in the 2nd century BC is making the Ptolemaic model of the universe and giving orders to planet, sun, moon, up to the greater heaven. We also know that this information is validated by the religious texts, for instance, Bible. Now, questioning that, because we know what happens if we kind of keep agreeing to what we know. We do not really disagree, even if someone says that no, Copernicus is telling us that, okay, no, it's not the sun which is moving around the earth, it is the earth which is moving. Earth is not static, earth is kinetic. So, if we get this information, what if we do not accept it? We don't want to accept it, isn't it? So we said, because for several centuries, let's say, we are going with this information and it has not really done any wrong to us. So why believe in something new? So the point is that to realize here that knowing is whatever we know. Knowing is a subjective act. We know through certain sources that source may not be completely invalid. That source may be science. That source may be whatever discipline we rely on. It can be medical science, for instance. Medical science can tell us that cancer is a disease today, and it may tell us some years later that it is not a disease. We will believe it because we know the method of science is basing itself on this particular task of validating knowledge. So this design, which we call as method, is something which is much more superior to any knowledge which is available to us. So the method of knowing is of primary importance. So once we realize that all kind of knowing may be a subjective act, we will be very humble to this position that, okay, we know this. Okay. And the day we are told that no, your knowledge of about this topic, your knowledge about this phenomena process may not be sufficient, we will be accepting the fact that okay, let's check the method that if the new knowledge which is being acquired is being acquired using the proper method or not. Okay. So why would we believe Copernicus, or why did people believe Copernicus? Unless because Copernicus was not able to show it. He was doing mathematical calculations saying that, okay, no, there's something wrong here, but he was not able to show it that what is wrong. And this can only be done or proven with the coming of telescope and the Galileo that we know of. So with the coming of telescope, it was now easy to see that what is happening in the uh, planetary system, what is happening in other kind of celestial, with other kinds of celestial bodies. Is there any order? How do we really get a sense of all of this? So seeing become then uh, a superior act. Mere knowing was not sufficient. You know, and then you validate by seeing as well. So there was a dominant proverb which became very famous. You all must have heard of it. Is seeing is believing, which evolved in 16th and 17th century. Now, what do we really mean by seeing is believing? Do we believe everything that we see? Or should we believe everything that we see? Or there is more to seeing than seeing? So we understood that seeing was reliable an act only when it was validating what we knew earlier. So there is always this present of prior knowledge, and now we are seeing. So if our prior knowledge and seeing or use of any other sensory organ is validating each other, then we say, okay, now we believe it. Okay. So seeing was this reliable source of knowledge, by seeing also seeing with the prior source of knowledge. And you will see a lot of inventions or development which is happening post Renaissance in Europe. A lot of emphasis is on seeing. Birth of telescope is one. Think of microscope. Think of different kind of paintings, sculpture. Uh, think of the printing press, where the knowledge is being produced on a mass scale. So you you see that the act of seeing is spread, and it is believed that through this use of sensory organ which facilitates seeing, one would be able to believe what we want to tell them. Okay, so knowledge was made visibly available. So what do you see? You see the coming of maps, you see the coming of diagrams, you see data of various kind. You must have heard of this, that numbers don't lie. You must have also uh, read a lot of cultural descriptions. So what all of these made was that knowledge became factual. So we now had an idea that what are facts. We had an idea that okay, whatever we are presenting as knowledge is not really my view of anything. It is what is backed by data. It is what is backed by maps or diagrams. So you go to a doctor And if doctors say that you have, for instance, some pathological issue, go get a test done. So the test will actually give you a kind of affirmation that you have this problem through visibly presenting something. So if it's an ultrasound or MRI, it will give you a diagram. If it's a let's say blood test, it will give you some other number, which, and you believe that there is something wrong. My blood pressure level is high or low, or blood sugar level is high or low, whatever we end up believing. It is all happening because the knowledge which is being given to you is made available in a visible form, isn't it? So from here, if we start believing that visibly or visibility of any knowledge makes it more reliable, makes it more valid, then there are changes in those visible forms or structures as well. One example that I would want to give you is this statue. So you must have seen this statue, you know what this statue is, isn't it? So this is Lady Justice. We all know Lady Justice is blindfolded. She can't see us, but we can see her. And a very old idea of Lady Justice Justitia is present, coming from the Roman culture. So we know this statue because there's some certain very important aspect to this statue. For instance, when we say that Lady Justice is blindfolded, we mean that justice has to be impartial. We know that one's identity should not be coming into play when the justice is being delivered, isn't it? So that impartiality, whoever is present in the front of the courts or courts of justice, it doesn't matter. Uh, that's what the blindfold means. Carrying scales mean that there has to be balance of evidences. Not one evidence will be given more importance compared to the other. There has to be an order which is more or less followed. And the sword kind of gives us a sense of authority that justice has. Now, in October 2024, uh, the Supreme Court of India actually unveiled a new statute, same Lady Justice, but it was called as Nyaya Devi. Uh, the new statue did not have a blindfold, and the sword was replaced by a book, which is the Constitution of India. Now, if blindfolded Lady Justice was being objective, was not really uh, influenced by the presence of an earlier knowledge about someone's identity. So what was happening here, that the a priori knowledge and the act of seeing, both was being blocked. So if you don't have knowledge, if just whoever is doing justice, if they don't have knowledge about the disputants, they will be in a better position to deliver justice. If this is an idea, so what does removing the blindfold means? So have we really become more objective towards justice with the new statue of Nyaya Devi? And you will also see that the Nyaya Devi is now wearing an Indian sari, isn't it? So this is giving an Indian flavor to the statue. So did we become more objective towards justice with this new statue? So we realize that we did not work with this idea of objectivity, or it was not really sufficient, because the kind of stratification, the kind of inequality that is present in the Indian society, being objective from the position of uh, delivering justice was not sufficient. Therefore, the idea of social justice which is already present in the Constitution, it was to kind of imagine that we cannot be equal to all or giving equal kind of privileges to all when we are in this stage of development of a new nation. So someone would argue that the constitution itself uh, has some kind of contradiction. So for instance, we're talking about equality, at the same time we're talking about reservations, for instance, isn't it? So why are we giving reservations if we want everyone to be equal, isn't it? These are contradictions. But we realize that the contradiction is coming from a better realization of our social reality. Okay. And this social reality suggests that there is an inherent inequality present in the society that we live in, and for making these opportunities, be it political, economic, social, uh, for making them accessible for all, we need to give some of them uh, an advantage more than the other. So therefore, we have, for instance, the idea of affirmative action or positive discrimination, which in other words we call reservation. Okay. So this realization that objectivity in itself is not really working here, and objectivity may not work everywhere, we will have to stick to some of the values that we believe in. Because what is the difference between objectivity and subjectivity, for instance, when you think about your school lessons? So we say, okay, objectivity comes from science and your scientific experiments or inquiry, it is not influenced by what you believe, your personal biases, your value systems, it is not influenced by that. But what is subjectivity, where your identity, your beliefs, your values, your bias come as biases, isn't it? So, if we believe in some kind of values as a society, that this is the direction on which we want to take the society forward, it is always a value-based idea. So if we have a belief in a value-based future, we cannot really be objective, and objectivity may not be as effective as driving the society through some kind of value. Now the only question it will be, what value, isn't it? And this is what is the relevance of uh, such understanding of knowledge is for social science. Because if social science is really engaged in a specific kind of future for the society, if it wants to ensure that there is a possibility of a better life for the members of society, then it has to, one, question the existing knowledge or critically engaged with the orderings that how knowledge is coming to us, what are the non forms of knowledge available to us. And then the major concern would be to differentiate between what is meaningful and meaningless forms of knowledge. Okay. So, what is meaningful knowledge or what is meaningless knowledge? So, any knowledge, for instance, which is arbitrary, which is disorderly, which is disruptive, is meaningless. What would we as a society do with that knowledge? Unless it has some utility for the value based future that we are imagining, isn't it? So, how do we ensure that? Because we all are in the process of producing knowledge. So, how do we ensure that we are producing meaningful knowledge? Or anyone who has been engaged in producing knowledge are producing meaningful knowledge. The only way is to realize that we are not the only ones who should validate our own knowledge. Our knowledge must be validated by others. They should find meaning in it. They should realize that this is orderly, this is peaceful, this is coherent. If it is not working for them, it is not working for them. We cannot really impose it. And this is what we have been doing in all these cultural clashes, that we have been imposing one certain idea on others. But if we don't uh, impose it, and if we let others critically engage with it, whether it is meaningful for them or not, and there can be the second step to it, which is that we have to make ourselves seen. We have to clearly state or honestly state that how this knowledge was produced. If we do these two acts, if we let others engage with it, find meaning in it, and if we let others see us, because this is all about seeing, isn't it? We are seeing others, and what we do is we don't want others to see us, isn't it? In how the knowledge is produced, what is the motive behind our production of knowledge? Why are we are saying what we are saying? So if we let ourselves be seen, then the search for meaning or search for meaningful knowledge, which could lead to a particular direction for society, will be a kind of realizable task. So I'll stop here. I've taken 25 minutes, I think. If you have questions, please put it in the comment box. Pratiti, you are muted.
Oh, thank you, Sharib. That was very interesting. We don't have any questions at this moment. I think a lot of students are absorbing what you shared. It was quite university level. So let's just give them a couple of minutes if they have
Yeah.
any questions. In
Yes,
the
yes.
meantime, Ovi, would you like to join and kind of introduce yourself before we get started with your session?
Am I audible and visible?
Yes, you are, Ovi.
Thank you, Pratiti. Thank you, Sharif, for that session. I was keenly listening to it. Hi, everyone. I'm Ovi. I am. I'm getting some kind of an echo, actually. But anyway, I teach with the biology group at the university, and now the echo is gone. Thank you, Prati. I don't know what happened. I teach in ecology and biodiversity conservation to undergrad students. I myself am a political ecologist. I'm really happy to be here. Good afternoon, almost evening to everyone. I'm looking forward to interact with you and share what we do at the university.
Okay, we're not having too many questions at this moment. So maybe we'll just go into your session, Ovi,
Sure,
and people will share their comments and questions slowly.
sure. If there are any questions for Sharif, please include them in the comments whenever you can. Yeah, great. Thank you, Praditi. So I'm here today to talk to you about one of the most fun courses at the university, and that's the biodiversity conservation course. There is a small part of it which involves being out there, being outside of the university. It involves traveling, going to places, observing, noticing things, analyzing things, and coming back with an eye that has developed a bit and a brain that is buzzing with curiosity. So that's the aim of this course. Um, so this course itself is part of an occupational track which focuses on pedagogy that is connected to practice itself. So students think about how it would be if it was a career. And there are certain parts to it. I won't go in details. There are 5 different sections to this course. And the one that I'll be talking about is the field methods course. Before even we get into that, of course, we have to think about why learn about biodiversity conservation. And I'm sure I don't have to explain as much looking at the amount of environmental changes that we are seeing all around us, no matter where we are on this earth. It has become really important to understand what's happening and try and do something about it. India itself is a highly biodiverse country, and as much as it all as much as issues that it has, it also offers us opportunities to learn, and that's what we use in this course. So this summer, for a few days, so the course itself, this particular section lasts for almost a month, but 11 days of those are spent in field. And this May we went to a district in Karnataka called Kodagu, or also known as Coorg, where we spent 11 days, 40 of us students, and I was with them along with a few other experts. The reason why we chose this place was another organization that we collaborate with, NCBS, National Center for Biological Sciences. They have a field station there. In fact, they have a long-term ecological monitoring plot, which means that they are committed to one area in that landscape, which they are going to monitor for years to come. And they're trying to set up ways by which we could understand what's happening in that landscape. Second reason, of course, that it is a biodiverse area. On the way, you get to see elephants all around. There are also elephants, leopards, those are the mammals. Apart from that, you have quite a few birds, reptiles, insects, and plants. We also have, I have a photo of one of the plants in this slide. Any of you, do you know what this plant is? You can type it in the comments if you know what this plant is. You'll have to just add the answer in the comments, and I can see that if you try and answer. I will wait a few seconds and I'll talk about other things about where exactly we went. So we started from Bangalore. That's where Azim Premji University is located. And from Bangalore, we took a bus to go to Kodagu. It was a few hours of journey. And throughout the journey, we were also observing different things. So just as Sharib said, actually seeing and noticing things, right? I do not see any comments, but I want to tell you that that flower is actually the flower of a coffee plant. So coffee is commonly grown in this region, and the flowers of coffee look very beautiful, white in color, and they're really fragrant. A lot of insects also are dependent on these flowers. It's a beautiful system. So it's a mix of a landscape. You have some coffee, you have some protected areas, you have some agricultural land, you have some private areas with plantations. So that's how diverse this area is. On the way, we started observing things and coming up with questions. For example, what are some of the changes around us, how are the crops changing, how are the plants changing, and why are they changing. So once you start really observing things and noticing things, you can also start analyzing them, and that's how you can develop critical thinking, where you try and feed or fuel your curiosity and come up with reasoning for what you see around, and make sense out of it. So even before we reached the destination, we had started this process, looking out of the bus windows wherever we stopped. So it was a really fun journey. Once we reached Kodagu, we were staying in degree college campus in a small town called Pannampet. And from there, our plan was only to observe things around, of course, systematically. So we decided to just observe plants on the first day. On the second day, we thought we'll see birds. On the third, insects. And that's how we moved forward. There were also other experts from the NCBS field station to discuss things with us, to show us things. But even before we started learning field methods, which are tools to measure biodiversity around or to do basic kind of research, we were just observing. And one of the plants that the students observed and they remembered it was this particular tree, which looked very orange in color. So from a distance, it looked like it had some kind of an orange colored powder on it. And one student said, "Oh, this is the piri piri tree." So, you get that piri piri masala to put on your food. It looked like that. And this was like very bright orange, very similar to that piri piri spice. And that's how the students remembered this tree. But once they saw this, the next question was, "Oh, what is this tree and what is that powder? Is it termites? Are there termites on the tree? Is something else happening?" And through a step-by-step process, we learned that this tree is silver oak, which is one of the commonly used shade trees for coffee plantations in that landscape, and that the orange stuff is not piri piri masala, but it is in fact lichen, which is an association of fungus or fungi and algae. So this is how everyday learning was: observing, coming up with questions, asking each other questions. Um, One important aspect of observing is also noting things down and reflecting about what you would have observed. So if you look at some of these notes that student had taken in their journals, they have made sketches of birds that they saw, and they have written things that they noticed. For example, this student noticed that there were a lot of holes on the ground, and were those holes for snakes or rodents or anything else? But then through discussions and observations, she realized that they are in fact crab nests all across the ground. So we made such observations, we documented things that were around us, and also started learning how to use field guides or field books that help us identify species that are around us. Apart from these beautiful birds, you have this racket-tailed drongo, which can mimic other birds, and then you have these beautiful plants. Apart from all of this, there were also leeches in this area, and leeches are annelids that feed on blood of mammals. And for many students, this was the first time that they were even being in a place that had leeches. So they started making observations about leeches as well. How old are these leeches? How long do they live? How do they survive? So our field days were mostly filled with a lot of questions and some answers. Apart from the coffee plantation and the long term ecological monitoring plot, we also went to other kinds of places, basically to understand how we manage the landscape around. So, protected areas might not be the only way we could conserve. There might be other ways of conserving or utilizing the forests. And one of those is sacred groves. And this country has thousands of sacred groves which are used by the communities living in and around these places. They are of cultural importance and they come with certain guidelines about what is allowed in that place and what is not. Often, tree cutting is not allowed in such places, hunting is not allowed. So, we had coffee plantations, we had sacred groves, we had private reserves and protected areas. So, we also tried to come up with a way to compare our observations between these different governance types to understand how biodiversity conservation works and what all is connected to it. I have another question for all of you. What is this animal that you are seeing? Again, you can think about it. If you can quickly think and add into the comments, it would be really nice. But let me tell you anyway. So, the first reaction is it's an ant. And it's true, the one on the left is an ant. But if you carefully look at the insect like thing that is in the center of the image and you count its legs, it has 8 legs, unlike an ant, which has 6 legs. And this is a spider, a species of spider that mimics the ant, which means it has evolved in a way that it looks like an ant, probably to fool the ants, right? So students were starting to notice these things, and we would discuss whether an insect was really what it looked like because there were so many spiders who mimicked ants. There were bugs that mimicked other things, and the world of insects just kept on becoming fascinating. So even if you zoom in, and that's how you observe nature around you as well, right? You can zoom in, you can really focus on what you are seeing, looking at how many body parts, what is it doing, is it really an ant or not? But you can also zoom out. So, where are these ants and spiders? What kind of landscapes are they using in? What about the use of pesticides in those landscapes? Can that affect these insects or not? So, zooming in and zooming out becomes very useful when you are anywhere, actually. So, yeah, this is not an ant. One of them is an ant, but the one in the center is a spider. The second amazing observation we had was of this particular tree. It's known as Syzygium zeylanicum. Syzygium is the same genus as jamun tree, so which is also known as Java plum. So jamun tree is right now in the fruiting season. If there is any jamun tree around your schools or houses, you would see it fruiting right now. There are in fact quite a few in around this campus. This is a relative of that tree. It's a wild relative of that tree, and it has beautiful white fragrant flowers. And the students observed that there are quite a few insects on it. They saw that there are 2 kinds of honeybees, there are a number of other bees. A lot was happening. We moved further into the long term ecological monitoring plot, and we saw that this one Syzygium tree was full of a lot of moths around it. So, moths look similar to butterflies, but many of them are nocturnal and many of them have comparatively drab colors. There are other differences as well, but these moths that we were seeing on this tree were all day flying moths. These are the moths that are active during the day and they are also brightly colored. They are red and yellow and white. And there were hundreds of them around this tree, which made all of us very curious, and we started then trying to figure out why was it that there were so many insects around this particular plant. Turns out, in the month of May, very few trees are flowering. So this tree was like a resource hub for all of the beings around it. And wherever we saw this tree flowering, it would be used heavily by a lot of insects. So it became a place for us to make observations and to just be fascinated by what was happening all around us. There were like a lot of insects and moths all around us. Then, as we started to learn about plants more, we also started understanding or learning how we could measure these things that we're seeing. One way is that you qualitatively try and understand and write things down. Another way is that you convert what you're seeing into numbers. How many plants are there of this kind? And for that kind of an activity, I have an example of this plant which looks very pretty. It's called as lantern flower. Its genus is Ceropegia. There are many, many species of this particular plant. And it's again a very interesting plant. It temporarily traps insects inside for pollination, not for eating. So the nutrition for this plant is coming from the ground. It grows like a vine. It's also very difficult to see. Also, the way it catches insects is fascinating. Some species of Ceropegia, they mimic chemicals that are released by honeybees when a honeycomb is being attacked, which is amazing. As in, think about a plant that can copy the same kind of chemicals, produce them and release them so that insects get attracted to it for pollination. So, say for example, you were interested in studying this particular species of plants. Let's assume that the picture on the right, the simple sketch, is Ceropegia. Okay, and I'll show you a slide, the next slide, which has a lot of these Ceropegias and maybe other plants as well, right? So this is how many times, like how most of the times you see the nature around you. It's very complex, it's messy, there are so many things happening. So if I give you 10 seconds, can you count how many lantern flowers are there? Now remember, the symbol for that is this green colored small sapling. How many are here? Is it really easy to count? Can you try? Are you able to see the different individuals of this flower, this exact symbol? It is very difficult, right? Some of them are overlapping too. If you want to answer, you can put it in the comments about how many you can see, because your 10 seconds are about to end. So many times it's really difficult to even spot these flowers. Right now you are seeing an image which is simplified. So in this way, it's a little bit easy, but in real world, it can be a bit more complex. So it is very difficult to count in 10 seconds. What would you then do? It would have been really nice if we were interacting, because all of us could come up with different ways, different strategies of figuring out how we could count the number of Ceropegia plants in all of this, whatever we are seeing. One way is to divide this place into equal parts, into smaller grids, and count the number in the smaller grid and approximately estimate how many there could be. And that's what many ecologists and conservationists do. They estimate the number of beings around them. So this is one way that you can count the number of Ceropegias that are around. If not a grid, you could put a line, which is called a transect. And along this transect, you could count how many of them touch this particular line. And you could also combine grids and transects. So all of these are basically methods used to measure biodiversity around this. All right, so we have kind of an answer about how we could count these things. But how do you make a transect line, or how do you make a grid? These group of students spent more than 40 minutes just trying to make a transect rope which has equally marked points along it so that it's easier to count species. Many times when you do field work, you do not get things that are ready made, so you have to come up with all of these ideas, getting a good rope, cutting it in the perfect size, marking it, making a grid. So sometimes you have to go to the fabricator to make a metal grid, or you make it out of PVC pipes. None of these things, most of these things are you cannot buy from a market, because this is such a niche thing. It's such a very few people actually need this every day. So that was a fun exercise, by the way, because the we just had a bundle of rope, a pair of scissors, and few ribbons to mark the rope. Apart from observing things, we also met people in Kodagu. So we met a farmer who was uh, who is an organic farmer from the region, and he's an award-winning farmer. So we met farmers. We also met experts who worked on elephants, and they radio collar elephants, so that you get to know how elephants move around in this landscape. And we all tried to discuss things with whoever we met, and we also tried and reflected on it, analyzed these things, and there are different methods for that too. So, yeah, this is what we did. And then we did not know when the 11 days went back. We returned to the university campus, and these are images from our Bangalore campus. On one side, you have students looking at our weather station. So although we were back in classrooms, we decided that we will find every chance to step out of the classrooms as well. So we looked at the weather station and learned how to get data from the weather station, how to analyze it. We also observed what was around in the campus as well. And this particular activity you can also try out. It's called making a nature zine, where you spend 10 to 15 minutes quietly just listening to things and observing things, and you make sketches of whatever you thought, whatever you saw, whatever you smelled, whatever maybe you tasted something. So it's a really fun activity. And these are some of the things that students wrote, that the campus is quite pretty at this time, and I want to do this again. Oh, I can hear this particular insect. There is also construction sound around. Maybe that is a bulbul calling. So this kind of activity also helps build connections to wherever you are. So whatever we did in the field, we brought it back, and we did similar things in the campus, so that we build connections in the campus itself. On the very last day, of course, we spoke about the things that we will miss, and we missed. You would not believe that the students missed leeches as well. And the beautiful meals we had in Kodagu, everything that we learned, all the knowledge that we gained also an eye to look for things, to look for questions. And all of us on the last day came together, and we made a huge art work where everyone could just draw whatever they thought was really nice from this experience. And you can see that there are different things that students connected to, about how to make maps, how to use GIS and remote sensing, how to use satellite imageries, beetles, bird calls, and things like that. So this was our last day of the course. If you think what happens when you go beyond classrooms and beyond presentations, um, I think the kind of experiences and knowledge that we gain, the kind of environment there is that is created for this learning to happen, nothing else can match it. And if you are into biodiversity and conservation, you have to step out of the classrooms and connect to the landscapes around you. So there is no other way to really replicate this in the classrooms. In fact, one of the students even wrote a poem. A bunch of students contributed to it about how they would wake up early in the morning and be in field, and what they observed and what they felt about what was happening around. Some parts of the poem are sad too, because we could see that there were conservation issues in that landscape as well. Some of the portions were happy, and some of them had a sense of mystery. So, whatever you are thinking and whatever you have learned, you can always translate it to uh, artwork, poetry, apart from formulae and numbers and academic writing. Uh, so when such kind of environment is there, you start building a connection to the surrounding world, and you learn active problem solving, from creating transits to making grids to figuring out what to do when your vehicle breaks down, or what to do when it's raining too much and you have to go and work. You also become more reflective, probably more gentle, more courageous. So apart from all of the knowledge gained, there are you are actually developing as a human being, as an individual. Surprises lead to discoveries. Some things do not work out and they can surprise us. So classrooms can be quite predictable. Whatever happens in a closed classroom can be predictable, it can be planned. So that element of surprise is often missing. But when you step outside, when you step out of classrooms, there is a whole world that can surprise you, and that actually can lead to new discoveries. And lastly, one of the most important things is that uh, as students or lifelong students who are interested in knowledge, we learn best with each other. And when you step out, you really form connections with each other. You make friendships, you learn together, you experience things together, you discuss things, you travel together, you eat together. Nothing else can replace that. So, one of the main things that we all felt when we came back from this course was that we connected each other with each other more, and in many more ways than we could imagine. So, this is all that I had to share with you. Again, good evening to you. I see someone's comment in the chat box. If you have any questions, I would love to take them. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this. You can put your questions in the chat if you have any. All right. I don't see any questions coming up, but I would say keep asking those questions and noting them down. If later on also you feel like, oh, you thought about something while listening to this talk, both Sharib's and mine, go ahead and try and explore it further. All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Uvi. That was really, really interesting. I feel like I've learned a lot after going through your session. Thank you again. Those pictures were amazing. I didn't know coffee flowers had a strong smell. So, and now I'm excited about looking for one of them. Again, thank you, everyone who joined us this evening. Thank you for joining us. And like Ovi said, if you have questions while you view this video later, you can put it in the comments or you can write to us at admissions@apu.edu.in and we will get back to you with responses to your specific queries. We will be having several more of these kinds of interactions, and we'd be happy to see many of you join us for those as well. Thank you, Ovi, again.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Yes.